a border dispute older than most nations, a simmering conflict fueled by oil, history, and political intrigue. For centuries, Venezuela and Guyana have clashed over a vast swathe of land. But now, something has shifted. Cannons are no longer firing, but the rhetoric burns hotter than ever. Could we be witnessing the final act of this territorial tug-of-war, with Venezuela about to swallow up its smaller neighbor? So stay tuned as today we delve into the explosive possibility of Venezuela annexing Guyana. A big problem in the north part of South America is getting very serious. Guyana is saying that it's in big trouble because Venezuela might have a vote that could make them take over Guyana. This vote is supposed to happen in December, and Guyana thinks it's like a step before Venezuela takes control. The place they're arguing about is called Essequibo, and it's almost 160,000 square kilometers to the left of the Essequibo River. This river goes from the south to the north and splits Guyana in two parts. Guyana is the one in charge of this area, even though Venezuela says it's theirs. This place is divided into 6 parts that Guyana runs. Some of these parts are on both sides of the river, but most of Guyana's land is in Essequibo. Even though the number of people is different depending on who you ask, around 125,000 out of Guyana's 800,000 people live there. Now, most of Essequibo, just like all of Guyana, is a thick rainforest full of diverse plants and animals and nice natural sights. But here's the thing. There's a bunch of oil under the seafloor near the coast. ExxonMobil found the first big batch of Guyanese oil in 2015, and since then, this small country has become a big deal for oil because they found more and spent a lot of money to look for and get the oil out. The newest big find was just last month. Right now, Guyana makes about 400,000 barrels of oil every day, but they plan to make 1.3 million barrels a day by 2027, and most of it will be from the Stabroek block, where there's a lot of oil. No surprise, all this oil stuff has made Guyana's economy go way up. But getting back to the problem with Venezuela, like many fights over land, this one started a long time ago when countries were taking over places. In 1814, the Dutch gave what's Guyana now to the United Kingdom, but they didn't say exactly where the land ended. So in 1840, the British told someone to check it out and draw a line to show where Guyana's border is with Venezuela. The line he drew claimed about 77,000 more square kilometers of land than what the British already had at that time. Now, Venezuela didn't agree with this line and said the border should actually go further east to the Essequibo River, claiming about 2/3 of the British land. Then they found gold, making this argument more serious. After Venezuela pushed a lot, the US got into the mix to make the UK agree to let someone else decide. So, in 1899, a group called the International Arbitration Tribunal mostly said the UK was right, which made Venezuela pretty sad. Even so, Venezuela went along with it, and a new team from the UK and Venezuela drew the border as the ruling said. But jump ahead to 1962, and Venezuela says the 1899 decision doesn't count and is basically not fair. Then, in 1966, Venezuela and the UK make a new deal in Guyana that talks about how to fix the problem without saying who's right. Around that time, Guyana becomes free from the UK, so now the fight is between Venezuela and a new, independent Guyana. After that, not much changed, and the UN Secretary-General tried to help fix the problem. But things got more serious starting in 2015 when oil was found near Essequibo. Venezuela said Guyana shouldn't be allowed to look for and use the oil there, especially with American companies like ExxonMobil involved, which really bothered Venezuela. Since the fight came back and they couldn't agree for many years, in 2018, the UN Secretary-General said the International Court of Justice, ICJ, should be the one to decide. Guyana quickly brought the case, asking the ICJ to agree with the 1899 decision. Venezuela, kind of not fully joining in, tried to stop the case by saying the court shouldn't decide. But in April this year, the ICJ said it can decide and the case is still going on. However, things got a lot worse in September when Venezuela's National Assembly said yes to a big vote about the land fight. This vote is set for December 3rd this year. The first question asks Venezuela if they don't like the 1899 decision and don't think the ICJ should decide. Instead, they should use only the 1966 Geneva Agreement to fix the problem. But the most important question is the last one, number 5, which asks Venezuelans if they want to join the area as part of Venezuela, giving them citizenship and IDs, adding it to their map, and more. The government in Venezuela really wants people to say yes to all 5 questions, and the words are made to make people vote that way. But in Guyana, especially the last question about making the area part of Venezuela is making them very worried. They say this vote is a big danger to their country and would let Venezuela take 2/3 of their land without any agreement. The big vote has made 3 groups, the Commonwealth, CARICOM, and the Organization of American States, all say they don't like it. Guyana is in all 3 groups. The Guyanese government is also asking the ICJ to quickly say that Venezuela can't go ahead with the vote. Right now, the ICJ hasn't said anything about this request, but Venezuela's vice president said they won't stop the vote even if Guyana asks. But it's important to know that even if Venezuela says yes to all the questions, it won't really change things on the land right away. Guyana will still be in charge of the area, and the ICJ will still be the ones to say what's officially true. The real question is what Venezuela does next, thinking that a lot of people voted for it. Because of when the vote is happening, it might be a way for Venezuela to make its claims seem more accepted by the ICJ. Also, it could be a way for Venezuela's government to see if people like them before the election next year, and to get people feeling proud of their country, maybe to forget about problems at home. But there's also worry about something more serious. Guyana has said they don't like that about 150 to 200 Venezuelan soldiers are near the border. Venezuela says they're there to stop illegal mining. The Venezuelan ambassador says they will never attack Guyana and don't want any trouble. Still, with such a big problem, this promise probably won't make Guyana feel less worried. In conclusion, the situation between Guyana and Venezuela is getting more complicated. The upcoming referendum in Venezuela, along with the reported troop deployment near the border, has raised concerns in Guyana and among international organizations. The disagreement over the territory, fueled by historical disputes and recent oil discoveries, continues to be a source of tension. The involvement of the International Court of Justice adds a legal dimension to the conflict, but the potential implications of the referendum and military presence linger. As the international community watches closely, the hope remains for a peaceful resolution that respects the sovereignty and security of both nations. The coming days will undoubtedly reveal more about the unfolding dynamics in this complex and long-standing dispute. That's it for today, and now we invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Do subscribe to the channel if you like our content. We will catch you in the next one.